There were so many times I did diets or exercise programs because I hated my body and I wanted to turn it into something that I could like. And even at my lowest weight or my strongest arms, it did not matter. I was never good enough for myself. Hello, today we are tackling about today we are tackling the topic of negative body image as a new mom. I think these things help with anyone who is dealing with negative body image. However, if I could go back and talk to newborn mom Nicole, these are the things that I would like to say to her. Over the last year, I've tried to figure some things out for myself. I actually started talking to a dietitian and it really has helped me. So I just thought I would share a few things that if I could tell newborn mom Nicole, I would tell her. And honestly, they're also reminders for myself almost every day because this is really something that I struggle with, and I just wanted to share with you and see maybe that we're not alone. I do just want to say that I am not a dietitian, I am not a doctor, so this is just all stuff that I have been tweaking and working on in my life. And the first thing that I want to share is to let go of the pressure to get it figured out. There are so many things going on when you have a young child or newborn, and being really particular about your calories or macros or paleo or whatever, being super strict about all of that is just an added stressor that you don't need. Try to let go of the pressure that you're putting on yourself and look at things as an experiment. When you eat a certain meal, how do you feel after? When you eat out at a fast food restaurant, how do you feel after? When you have Chinese food, how do you feel after? When you have a steak, how do you feel after? I know that after I have Chinese food, I feel kind of crummy. So when I do that, I try to add in vegetables. I try to drink a lot of water. I try to balance out what makes me feel good with things that taste really good. Just try to look at things through an experimental lens. Try to find what you like, what you don't like, what makes you feel good, what makes you feel kind of crummy. And when you're going into a situation where you know that you're going to eat something that makes you feel kind of crummy, what can you do to lessen that crummy feeling? Is there something you can add to it or replace with it that will make it feel better for you? And I'm not saying like, oh, you want chips, go have some carrots because they're crunchy. That's not the same thing. Like, you'll end up eating all this other stuff instead of just eating the chips that you wanted to eat. But if there are things you can do, like adding more vegetables to your Chinese food and knowing that that's going to make you feel better about it, then maybe try that and work in what you think will work and work out what you think isn't serving you anymore. Once I learned that I could look at things as more of an experiment and adding in different things and working out different things, it really helped me release the pressure of getting it right and being quote unquote good and having to do things a certain way all the time. Once I started looking at it as an experiment, it just really lifted a burden from my shoulders. And I hope that if you look at your life and the things that you're doing as an experiment and learning what works for you and your body, that maybe it'll let go of the pressure on you as well. My next tip is to unfollow people who are unhelpful. So if you are following these really intense exercise people, but you find that you actually like yoga more and you don't really want to do the super intense workouts, great. Maybe don't follow those people anymore and follow people who are more in line with what you think that you like and what you think you want to be surrounded with more. Surrounding yourself with people who have bodies that don't look like yours might be a little more stressful than helpful. So I would suggest following body positive accounts, following intuitive eating accounts, following joyful movement accounts, finding things that are more in line with who you think you are as a person instead of trying to be someone you're not or trying to be like someone else. That has really helped me kind of stop the comparison game because I didn't really realize how much I was doing it until I unfollowed a bunch of people who were making me wish that I had a certain lifestyle. I mentioned previously about intuitive eating, and intuitive eating is in a more general sense of finding things that work for you and your body and that make you feel good. It's not that you're going to cut out certain things, and in fact it's more of adding in things. Add in more water, add in more fruits and vegetables. It's more of an abundance mindset versus a restrictive mindset. I don't know if you're like me, but the second I go on a diet and they tell you can't have a certain food, all I want to do is eat that food. Oh, you can't have chips? Buying bags of chips now because I can't seem to help myself. I'm not even a chip person. That's not normal. So with intuitive eating, you kind of work in more gentle nutrition and you figure out, again, what works for you, what makes you feel good, what vegetables you like. Are there ways you can doctor things up with nutritious foods that would make you enjoy it more? One of those things is like oatmeal, which I have not done this yet, but I really want to try this. I do not like oatmeal. My dad used to make me have oatmeal when I was sick all the time, and then I would end up throwing it up because I was sick. And now when I eat oatmeal, it must be a texture thing, but I cannot do it. So I was talking to my dietitian about this, and she was like, well, if you eat it plain made with water, of course you're not gonna like it because that sounds gross. But like if you maybe make it with some milk and you throw on some berries with it and a drizzle of honey and some toasted almonds or something, like, would that sound good to you? And I was like, that sounds so good. Now I want to try it. So it's kind of like working in those more nutritious foods, making things more whole and balanced and appealing to you so that you actually do eat them and focus on those more nutritious things. That's what intuitive eating is all about, like finding what works for you, finding what you enjoy and having more of it. And that's such a more healthful and abundant way to me to look at our bodies and how we take care of them versus dieting and restricting. It just seems so much more loving to me. The other part of intuitive eating is finding joyful movement. So I mentioned earlier about like Orange Theory while pregnant or doing yoga or whatever. And I have done so many different programs. I've done so many different things. I've tried running, I've tried Orange Theory, I've tried yoga, I've tried walking, I've tried strength training. I've had Beachbody, I've done all the apps, I've done so many different things, and there are different phases of my life where things have worked for me better. There are some Beachbody programs that I just love the exercises, so that worked for a while. I loved Orange Theory when I did it, however, I did get shin splints and realized that that's not for me. The more I'm learning about myself and my body, the more I learn that I don't like really intense exercise. My whole point to say with that is maybe, again, experiment. Find things that you like to do. Find movement that really makes you feel good about yourself physically, mentally, emotionally, whatever it is. Find what works for you and then work that in more frequently. It doesn't have to be a 7-day-a-week program, a 5-day-a-week program. Just work in that stuff in a way that you want to. And again, the more you find movement that you enjoy, the more you're going to want to just get up and do it. You don't have to do it at a set time. You don't have to do it on a specific day. If you love to walk and you just feel like going for a walk, that's so great. But if you love to walk and you say, okay, well, I've got to do the strength training program and I hate it, you might put it off. You might not do it as much, and it would still have been better to go out for that walk. So I think it's really good to experiment with things, again, that work for you and continue to try and tweak things because there are different seasons in life. And like I said in the past, I used to really love Beachbody workouts, some of those. And that doesn't mean that they won't work for me again in the future. It just means that right now, yoga and walking is what serves me versus the more intense programs. Another point that I want to say is that mirror work and talking to yourself about your body will actually really help. But I don't want to be all like woo-woo here. If you are struggling and you do feel like you love your body and you can say into your mirror, I love my arms. Great. Good for you. I cannot get in the mirror and say that about a lot of things about my body because I am so negative about myself. So I'm trying to switch that. And this is something that, again, I worked on with my dietitian, but she said, if you can't get in front of the mirror and say these things about yourself, that's okay. Mirror work really does help, but when you're saying things that are lies to yourself, you know it, so you feel ridiculous, and then you end up not believing it anyways. So if you can get in front of the mirror and say, okay, so maybe I don't like my arms, but they are strong, and they lift my baby, and they help me cook, and they help me do these things. Maybe you'll become neutral about your arms, and maybe one day you will be able to say, I love my arms. Start with being neutral. So if you're having a really bad day and you're checking your body in the mirror or in the glass or wherever you go, which I have those days frequently, more than I'd like to admit, pause and say one thing that if you can't say you love, say something you're neutral about and turn it positive. And eventually your mind will catch up with you. I heard this quote once that you can't hate yourself into a body that you love. And that hit so true to me because there were so many times I did diets or exercise programs because I hated my body and I wanted to turn it into something that I could like. And even at my lowest weight or my strongest arms, it did not matter. I was never good enough for myself. And I just want to challenge you and myself to find things that we could do to show ourselves we love ourselves every day. So I want to pose a question to you. What are the things that you would do if you wanted to show yourself you really loved yourself? How would you move your body? How would you eat? What would you work onto your plate? What would you say to yourself in the mirror? If you can't say, I love myself, I love my body, what would you say? Where would you start? With neutral. What are things that I didn't think of that I could do? Working in vitamins, working in sunlight, working in time with people that I love. Those are all things that are nourishing and good that will help me take care of my body and my soul. What's the first thing you would do if you were to do one thing today to show yourself that you love yourself? Thank you so much for joining me in this video. If you liked it, please hit the thumbs up button, subscribe if you're not already. And I just want to ask you, what is one thing you can do today to take a step in the direction of loving yourself? Leave that in the comments below. I think I will be taking my vitamins because I've not taken vitamins in a long time and it's time to start doing that. Bye.